Alright, here is the last video, and we're going to start with the Divas Championship match. Charlotte versus Paige. Okay, this storyline in many ways sucked, in many ways actually was kind of compelling. It suffers from the same problems that I brought up before when I talked about the Survivor Series, and Paige, for the most part, has been booked to be a loser, not credible enough to be competing for, well, the only championship in her division. And this bugs me because she's getting a second shot at it when she really did not even deserve the first. But what I think is even worse than this is, for the most part, the storyline has not been built around Paige. She's just kind of occasionally shows up. But really, it's about Charlotte and her possibly turning heel and betraying her friend Becky. And I think this storyline has been forced, but at least Charlotte is more compelling as a heel. I've enjoyed watching her a lot more, as she starts to play dirty, than I was when she was supposed to be the heroic babyface. However, I feel like Becky Lynch needed to be in this match. It should have been a triple threat match, and then I could have probably bought Paige's presence a little more. But it just seems weird that for the most part the time has been dedicated to the building tension between Charlotte and Becky, and then Paige is just sort of there, even though she's the one getting the title shot. So that kind of ruins the drama. And plus it makes this sort of a heel versus heel match, and sometimes that works, but in this case I don't think it did. This was strange because I think their bout at Survivor Series was technically better. That was a better wrestled match. Here, though, the crowd made a little bit more noise, and I think this one was a little shorter and a little better paced, so I was more entertained by this match than I was in their Survivor Series match, even though I think it's technically inferior. And I believe part of that is I found Ric Flair's antics outside of the ring to be always entertaining, and at times I even found myself paying more attention to what he was doing than what they were doing in the ring, even though what they were doing was perfectly fine. Not an exceptional match. In fact, I prefer the kickoff match with Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, but it was okay. It just, I think I was paying attention to the wrong thing, and Charlotte's attempts to mimic her father, to me, it's not a good idea, because nobody's going to be able to do Ric Flair better than Ric Flair, and she should want to get out of her father's shadow. If they really want to do a heel turn, have her turn on her dad. That would make a little more sense to me. But it wasn't unwatchable, I guess. It was fine. And that's really all I have to say about that. Finally, we've come to the main event. Sheamus versus Roman Reigns. And boy, the storyline was of all the stories I've mentioned, this probably was the best in terms that there was quite a bit dedicated to fleshing it out. The problem is I feel Sheamus and Reigns are playing characters whom they are not comfortable playing. They're trying to give Roman Reigns John Cena-esque promos, such as that tater tot bits. I'm sure John Cena would have sold that a lot better than Roman Reigns did, even though, once again, I don't think Roman Reigns is doing bad. It's just they're not playing to Roman Reigns' strengths. He should be pissed off and badass. Sheamus, it seems like they're just giving him Seth Rollins promos. That's honestly probably what happened. And Sheamus, he doesn't do it terribly, but I just don't think he has enough charisma to stay on the mic for that long. I actually wish he'd just give the mic to Barrett, because Barrett's, I think, a much better talker. But here's my issue with the League of Nations. I don't think their styles complement each other very well, and I don't think that any of these people need each other. Rusev, Sheamus, and Barrett all work brawler styles, or at least they focus on strikes more than anything else. And Del Rio is more of a technical mat wrestler. And to me, when you have stables, it's better to have very different styles and very different personalities. You know, the Shield worked because you had Roman Reigns as the powerhouse, Ambrose as the brawler, and Rollins as the high flyer. And these guys, their styles don't really complement each other very well. And way to play off the xenophobia too. That's the only reason we're really supposed to dislike these guys. But also, they're all pretty good on the mic, yet at the same time, I don't know if any of them are great. I feel like Barrett probably is, but he's never given enough time to really show what he's got. Whereas, you know, usually there's one person who's good on the mic and then other people who aren't, or maybe they have vastly different styles of promos. Like, once again, the Shield, you know, Reigns was a man with few words, and Ambrose was kind of the manic crazy guy, and Seth Rollins on the other hand was more level-headed, and yet he also talked quite a bit. But Rusev, Sheamus, Del Rio, and Barrett, they're not different enough to really stand out. However, I will say the one good thing about the League of Nations is that it's the one thing that differentiates Sheamus from Rollins. I am glad that Sheamus kind of put together his own group instead of just relying on the Authority. So even though I think it was the wrong group to set up, it's something. But this match was really awkward at first. Nobody really wants Sheamus to be champion, but at the same time, Roman Reigns is not the most popular on the roster himself. So immediately the fans rejected it. They started chanting, "We want Cena." And then you heard other people chanting, "Cena sucks." But the point is they were not connecting at all. Even though they were really trying. There were some good stiff shots, some pretty cool spots. And I do like how, you know, both Sheamus and Reigns are presented as, you know, true brawlers. They're really going all out and trying to hurt each other. So it's like I'm watching this and I'm like, this isn't bad. It's just because the crowd's taking a big dump on it, it's just sort of killing the mood. And then something miraculous happened. After they started bringing in their own crazy ass spots that looked really dangerous, to the point where I started to question whether or not they were being reckless, because some of this stuff looked so dangerous that I'm surprised there were no real injuries. But they're doing all this stuff that really hurts, and the crowd's just still kind of not really into it. They make some positive noise for the spot, but afterwards they immediately fall back into apathy. And yet, by the end, they won them over. And that was a really great moment when the crowd actually started reacting like they're supposed to react. I mean, they're booing Sheamus, but they're beginning to cheer for Roman Reigns. And this match just got better and better to where I was like, oh, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And, other times I was like, oh, please don't really be hurt, guys. I might not like you as champion, Sheamus, but I don't want you to get injured. And so when Roman Reigns gets screwed over again, I think this was a great underdog story, or potential underdog story. You have Roman Reigns, manage to overcome the entire League of Nations and somehow win. Speaking of which, that was another issue I had. Is I think the storyline would have been more powerful if, there was no family. If the Usos had their own plot, Ambrose had his own plot, and occasionally they'd come out to save the day. But for the most part, it was just Roman Reigns versus the entire League of Nations. That's the perfect way to make Roman Reigns an underdog. And when they came out, I thought it was weird that Barrett wasn't there, but apparently he's injured, so that sucks. He's always getting injured. Hopefully he recovers soon. And then when Sheamus wins and Roman Reigns gets screwed over, once again you feel like, God damn it, they did it fucking again. And the crowd just seemed to die once more after they built up all that goodwill that gave them the ending that the fans did not want. And then the miracle happened again when Roman Reigns flipped his shit and destroyed everybody. He's just beating the hell out of him with chairs. He's hitting him really hard too, and he looks pissed. And I got to give credit to Roman Reigns. His acting during this was exceptional. He looked genuinely furious. Like, he's like, fuck this, I'm done. And then Triple H and Stephanie and all these referees come out to stop it, and they're like, you know, don't, you're done, stop. And then Roman Reigns actually stops, and he has this like, God, what have I done look? And he was like wondering if he went too far. And then it's just like, you know what, fuck it. And he attacks Triple H. And he beats the hell out of Triple H so badly, and the fans are going crazy. They love this. And just once again, I loved how he transitioned so smoothly. Like, his acting during this moment was just excellent. And, you know, he tries to powerbomb Triple H through a table. It doesn't quite work, but then that leads him to just elbow dropping him. The table finally breaks. And then he starts to leave after destroying Triple H. And just as you think it's over, he comes back and then spears Triple H. A really hard spear, too, just as, Triple H was getting ready to leave. The one criticism I had was afterwards, Roman Reigns started smiling, and he looked very happy that he finally won the crowd over, but I think that sort of undermined it because people don't want the happy, smiling Roman Reigns. This showed that they want the pissed-off anti-hero. And for those who are wondering why I am not criticizing this while I criticized his spear on Triple H at the Survivor Series, well, the difference is in Survivor Series, it seemed unwarranted. Triple H had really done nothing to deserve that. At least he's not done anything to Roman Reigns to deserve it. And here, same thing. However, everybody treated it like Roman Reigns had just lost his mind. Like, even Michael Cole, who usually, has that double standard where he's perfectly okay if a babyface does something bad to a villain because he believes that they had it coming, whilst he'll criticize the villain for doing the same thing to the babyface. Even Michael Cole was like, "No, please stop please stop Roman. This is enough. You've gone too far." And I always thought Roman Reigns worked best when he was an anti-hero, and that's pretty much what he was here. And I think him smiling at the end kind of ruined that a little bit, but it was still, for the most part, awesome because you saw a very hostile crowd get won over by the end of the match. And that made this pay-per-view exceptional for me. It had a great opening and a great close. And everything in between was pretty good itself. Like, even I'd say the worst match was the Dudleys versus the Wyatts, or the Wyatts versus ECW. But even that was fun in its own way. My least favorite was the Divas match, but that wasn't bad. It was just closer to mediocre than anything. So that's why I believe TLC was a really good pay-per-view. I had a lot of fun watching it. And, I'm glad too, for all the problems they had going into it. You could tell that the entire roster was really working their hardest to make this program successful, and I think it paid off. I become the big cynic, and yet I was very happy with this program. So that is all I have to say. If you'd like to read my written version, please check the link in the description. I've also done written reviews of House and the Mummy Shroud, so please read those and stay tuned for my review of NXT TakeOver London. And I shall see you guys later.